Emperor Nero's influence is very prominent in the Titan universe, with two characters being inspired by him, one of them being a direct influence while the other has references to Emperor Nero, and both incorporate the concept and ideas of the beast of relations into their character. Nero was known for having persecuted Christians, this playing a factor in connecting him to the Beast of Revelations, as well as his name adding up to 666, depending on what language you use and how they spell his name. The number 666 being the number of the Beast of Revelations. For example, in Greek isopesiphy, as well as Hebrew's gematria, where every letter has a corresponding numerical value, you take a name and it creates a single number. This could give names multiple meanings, as well as connections to other words. In this case, Nero Caesar can equate to the number of the Beast of Revelations. In Greek, translating it over to Hebrew, the numerical value will sum up to 666, while the Latin version of his name, going over to Hebrew, ends up dropping the last N in Nero, which ends up dropping its value down 616. The first Nero introduced was Nero Chaos, who was a mage formerly known as Fabro Rowan, who was a mage from the Wandering Sea. Within the Fate and Fate Grand Order timelines, he stays that way, and even joins the true Wandering Sea. While in Tsukihime world, he becomes a dead apostle, a type of vampire. In his many years living, he absorbed 666 beasts, an obvious reference to the Beast of Revelations, and he can actually consolidate all these beasts, taking a form called the 999th Beast. The name Nero Chaos actually comes from the church giving him said name, basing it off of Emperor Nero, and actually uses a similar spelling to the Greek and to Hebrew version of the name. Meanwhile, in Fate World, we have the servant version of Nero, who is a female version of the Emperor, who actually takes on many forms, such as the Saber Venus form, their bride, swimsuit, and even a more bestial version based off of Mother Harlot, with there being a variety of jokes and references to her, in fact being Mother Harlot, who is her beast form, but also could potentially also be her rider form. And depending on the type of media you look at, generally Mother Harlot is seen riding a beast being that of the Beast of Revelations, while the Beast of Revelations itself is actually a separate entity that has been summoned by one master in Fate Prototype, as well as having its presence being referenced by Prototype King Arthur and Mother Harlot, as well as Queen Draco, which is a form that Nero takes before becoming Mother Harlot, or her other alternative beast forms. The beast version of her is actually a what if Nero didn't die, becoming more detached and destructive, aiming that at Rome, and even trying to destroy the world via the human order. Speaking of that, let's talk about her story when she did in fact take this path and what would come after. Introduced in London as a mysterious figure in her incomplete form and the source of singularities in Arcade's Divergent story, she attempted what Gatia did, except she wants to make the human order vanish completely instead of incinerating the current humanity and restarting it anew. In her attempt to create Gatia's demon god pillars, they took a form more befitting of her, that of dragons, referred to as demon brilliance by Ozymandias in Lost Jerusalem, the replacement for Camelot, and Ozzy referred to her as the Great Beast. In the Babylon singularity, she brought Nebuchadnezzar's soul to singularity and placed it in the clone of Gilgamesh's corpse, taking this opportunity to revive the city, creating a city of sin for her, and she fed on this sin so she could manifest into a beast, showing us a more juvenile form, or you could call it a larva form, since we also have Tiamat larva here as well. In our fight against her, we are assisted assisted by the Grand Rider, Noah, who decides to act when she invokes the Great Flood, greater than Tiamat's Chaos Tide, sinking the entire city in an instant. After playing around with the Chaldeans, she decides to retreat and tells them next time they face off, she will reach full beasthood and will be in a much stronger form. After finally reaching the final singularity in Arcade, we are assisted by Proto Merlin, Noah, King Hassan, yes she acquires 2 grandservants, and later Proto Arthur when she manifests in her complete form, referring to herself as Beast 6 as representing Sodom, and her other half representing Gomorrah, which we haven't seen yet, but both are in reference to cities. It's also revealed that there are 4 versions of Beast 6, L and R, from the mobile timeline, and when these 2 manifest, it prompts the manifestation of G and S, which appear in the Arcade timeline, meaning Proto Arthur's gonna be very busy, and I assume Monica's Beast 6 is either L or R, which means we might have hope in the mobile version, replacing her dragon motif with that of a wolf, as well as being more naked, if not just as naked as she was before. And just like Gatia and every other beast before her, she is defeated for good, and the world is saved. So the Master is forcibly contracted with Draco to help keep her alive after having been defeated in the Arcade timeline. She now essentially wants to die. The forced contract was actually made by Hakuno, although Draco's beasts thought they're the ones who actually made it. Hakuno actually wants to save Nero, or Draco in this case, from her own death wish. And as one of Nero's former masters, essentially her first master, as far as we're concerned, she had a connection to all versions of Nero, regardless of how faint it is. And the reason she chose the Grand Order Master, besides the fact that this is fake Grand Order, is also because they have experience with other beasts and beast-like entities. And going off topic for a bit, in one of Draco's voice lines, she actually mentions how Arthur is looking for specifically Beast 6G, aka Monica's beast, meaning LR, and the completely unknown Beast 5 are the ones that need to be discovered and revealed. So in this story, Draco summoned all the servants you would encounter in Arcade. C2 even has an appearance, with no gameplay. And they're all here to kill Draco, because that is her plan, to actually summon all these servants, create this imitation of those singularities as a way to get what she wants. Even though deep down, she doesn't want to live on, she has resigned herself to this fate in her own despair, which puts the Master, Satanta, and Locusta against everybody else, protecting her thanks to Hakuno and her brief involvement. And eventually we do get Tiamat and Lady Avalon, aka Prototype Merlin, to join our side throughout this adventure. Now here where things start to get more interesting. Since Draco is a beast of depravity, it's odd that she hates the idea of foulness and sloth. Her own demons disagree with her line of thinking and actions, not letting this slide, thus using the poison made by Locusta for Draco to put Draco asleep so then they could eventually overwrite Draco and become a new beast. Eventually her beast, called Incarnades, would eventually take a more humanoid form and become an extension of the beast, nothing more, nothing less. And they want to destroy everything Rome and Rome related. The new beast form they take is actually more bestial as opposed to another Harlot form, in this case using her Incarnades as the core as opposed to Draco herself. During the battle, Tiamat thought about killing Draco, but thinking back to what happened in London, her motherly instincts kicked in and decided to try to quell the new beast by transforming to her beast form. This gave the Master a chance to connect with Draco, seeing Hakuno, who depending on how you answer, will be either male or female. And here's where she reveals her plan and intentions I explained earlier. This was also a way to help test the Master's resolve before finally talking to Draco. Draco, who would again asked for her own death, the Master decided no, and to which wish for Draco to live on and to have hope, to not give in to her despair, allowing her to take a new form, this representing an impossible alternate future where Nero would overcome the thrice setting sun. Coming back with more energy and joy, she would make jokes calling herself Isekai incarnated Claudius, or even better yet, Demon Beast Emperor Draco, acting more like the Nero we know, striking more of a balance between the Nero personality and the Draco personality. The incarnates would be displeased by this and try to talk down to her, but she acknowledges what they say and just moves on. She even tells them that she will not give up her seat as B6S to anyone that includes them in this rebloomed demonic beast form of B6S. She explains to the incarnates that what separates her from Nero is that Nero, while grieving her last moments, didn't regret her life. Draco tried to distance herself, being tired of it, and she didn't meet her end, while the incarnates, the extension of Draco in particular, decided to go on cursing her life. After they were defeated, Draco ended up taking them back into her, reverting back into her more childish form, having now regained all her power as a beast back, being more dismissive of her adult form and the way she acted. And after all was said and done, she broke her contract to the master and even told them she'd keep them company on their deathbed wherever their journey would take them at the end, which is a nice sentiment, but I don't know how far they'll take this event in terms of the overall canon and where our deal call is going. She does end up handing over her grail, all the remaining servants disappear, and the master leaves to go back to where they belong. Draco alone ends up seeing a brief image of Hakuno before the screen fades to white, where what's next for her is unknown. Back at Chaldea, the master tells Mash and Kadok about the adventure they went on and that they contracted with a beast. Kadok gets a headache from this and takes a rest, and we find out Satanta ends up coming with us to see our Chaldea, and Nero ends up coming in wanting to hear about this other self of hers that they ended up meeting, what she wanted, what passions drove her, and so on.